user. Okay.
Oh, Charlie.
Okay, so maybe we get started now, and if people keep joining, I'll just slowly add them in. Thank you everyone for joining, and I'll hand it over to Zenit.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Really happy have you on this. I can say maybe regular seminar, because it's kind of a follow-up of the last meeting where we discussed objective measurement and how it can help us together with HBSC self-reported data. So yeah, welcome. We have an hour to discuss another issues dealing with objective measurement, and we have two presentations today. Sami Kokko from University of Jyväskylä, who will speak about National Physical Activity Surveillance System in parallel with HBSC, which is very interesting to us, and for many members, it's something we deal with. So it will be great to hear Sami's experiences in terms of this, and Peter Bakalár, who will speak about measurement of physical fitness within the HBSC study in Slovakia, which is also something what we can consider to as a complementary for the HBSC data. So thank you very much, Peter and Sami, that you prepared the presentation. I will also, maybe add that Kwok will say a few words about the physical activity focus group agenda. As you know, we decided in last personal meeting, to meet more regularly. Also, before regular meetings, organize these kind of seminars and discussions. So it's great that we can meet via Zoom. So yeah, Kwok.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Zenit, and I hope I'm just happy to have you all here for this webinar, I think, and also for a partial physical activity focus group kind of meeting, and to extend beyond the physical activity focus group for those people who can't always attend. I think one of the things that we have on our agenda is we've been asked from the ICC is to look at the questions in the mandatory question set, and some feedback from this equitable diversity inclusion group that looked at the questions that we have. This was the feedback that we got with regards to our two mandatory questions, one which was on the vigorous physical activity question and one on the moderate to vigorous physical activity question. So they looked at the questions, then they gave feedback and comments, and then we have to reply back by the 24th of April with regards to any kind of comments, any kind of actions that we want to do, and any proposed new text for the item, and any when we would do that by, and has this been completed at all yet or not. Now, I want to just focus on what the feedback was that they had, and bearing in mind that our biggest issue with regard to these questions is that they've had their own validation process already. So any kind of changes to this would require them to be going through that whole process again, and then maybe repiloted in each of the countries. Having said that, though, even though we want to stick to the most scientific robustness measures that we've gone through, we've also got to be sensitive and careful of the intended audience of who we're applying these instruments on, and how they interpret things, and as a result we may end up getting better results. So some of the questions that we have is like, language seems complex, would recommend in separating the question to two or simplifying the presentation. For example, please tell us how often you do intense exercise in your free time outside school hours. I usually do exercise that makes me sweat and or get out of breath. And then afterwards, there was another one which says, also does not include those unable to do this kind of exercise due to long-term conditions or disability, and see this perspective. EF is one of the persons on the group. Their point of my long-term condition or disability prevents me from, as an example. And so basically we need to have a think about this, and I would suggest that we follow up through email of this, have your thoughts and your concerns, and then we'll try to summarize your thoughts and concerns. So be expecting an email coming to you in the near future. We have until the 24th of April, but you know, there's Easter in the middle of all of this, and closing end of the term year. So this has been available for a month already now, but we thought we'll leave it to this meeting to raise this so we can actually emphasize that this type of work that we need to do as well. I think that's enough from me of what to expect from us, and hopefully it's not too big of an ask for you to respond to these items, so we can respond to the ICC too as well. Other than that, back over to you, Zdeněk.
Yeah, and yeah, so maybe we can start with the presentation. First, is Sami, right? Am I right? No, Peter. Sorry, guys. So, Peter, what's yours?
Share the screen.
Yes.
Can you see it? Yeah. Good. All right. Yeah.
Maybe one more thing. We didn't ask. I don't know if you would like to record the seminar. Then we have to ask. So we would like to record the seminar. So if you're comfortable with it, it's absolutely okay. If not, you can turn off your camera. So I will start recording. And I'm not host. So if you
yeah,
yeah.
The recording has already started, so we've informed you via email that it will be recorded. Excellent. Just one other thing to mention, I suppose, is that during these presentations, if you have any questions to raise, we'll probably have time for 1 or 2 questions after Peter's presentation, but we will have more time at the end of both presentations to have more of a rounded type of discussion afterwards. Okay. All right. Over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. So hi everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar, and thank you Kokko and Zdeněk for organizing it. My name is Peter Bakalár. I'm from University of Prešov, Faculty of Sports, and I'm the member of Slovak HBSC national team, which is led by the Professor Madara Sova-Kecková from Medical Faculty of the Pavol Jozef Šafárik University in Košice. Our institutions are cooperating on the health-related physical fitness measurements within the HBSC study. To start with, I will give you the context why we are conducting those measurements. Then I shortly describe the methodology we used, and then I will mention some of the results. And then, as you mentioned, there will be space for your questions. So, physical fitness refers to ability of the body systems to work together efficiently to allow individual to be healthy and perform activities of daily living. It consists of 11 parts. 6 of them are health-related, 5 skill-related. All of these parts are important to good performance in physical activity, including sports, but the 6 are referred to as contributing to health-related physical fitness because it has been shown that they can reduce the risk of chronic disease and promote good health. These parts are fitness. These parts of fitness are body composition, cardiorespiratory endurance, flexibility, muscular endurance, power, and strength. And within the HBSC study in Slovakia, we do focus on the first two, body composition and cardiorespiratory endurance. The reason is that we would like to complement health-related data obtained by HBSC questionnaire with objectively measured health-related physical fitness data. This is partially because there is a problem with self-reported body height and body weight and consequently BMI. And as well because we want to obtain data about cardiorespiratory fitness as a complementary variable to moderate to vigorous physical activity and vigorous physical activity items used in a HBSC questionnaire for further analysis. We did the first measurements during 2017-2018 data collection wave on the subsample of the whole HBSC sample in three main Slovakia's parts: Eastern, Central, and West. That means that we went to 12 schools, which represented 10% of all participating schools, and we measured 1,085 adolescents. 45% of them were girls. For body height measurement, we did use anthropometer A226. For body weight and body composition, we did use InBody 230 device. For cardiorespiratory fitness, we decided to use that time a Ruffier test while using Sunto dual heart rate monitor system. And besides the main HBSC questionnaire, we did administer as well additional paper questionnaire with questions of our interest and which were not included in the main HBSC questionnaire. The measurement protocol was as follows. We did data collection during two 45 minutes lessons. During the first lesson, adolescents filled online HBSC questionnaire in the PC room under the guidance of trained administrators, which administrated as well to the adolescents the paper bracelets with specific code. You can see it here. Hold on. Here, you can see it here. And this code then allowed us to merge data from questionnaire with physical fitness data because they included or filled the code into the online questionnaire. Then they moved to the school's sports hall, where they did change clothes in the changing rooms, and we measured body weight, height, body weight, and body composition in there. They obtained printed results of the body composition analysis, and if they were interested in, we gave them some short explanation of the results as well. Afterwards, they went to the sports hall, where we did put heart rate monitors on them. We instructed them how to perform the squats and then followed the protocol of the Ruffier test. After the completion of the test, we administer as well additional paper questionnaire, which I mentioned before. In 2022, so in the last data collection wave, the methodology was slightly different. We did not go to all Slovak parts, but focus solely on the Prešov self-governing region, which is in the northeast part of Slovakia. We went again to 12 schools, which represented again 10% of the total sample, and we measured 1,247 adolescents, of which 46% were girls. For body height, we did use SECA 213 mobile stadiometer instead of anthropometer A226. For body weight and body composition, we did use again InBody 230 device. For cardiorespiratory fitness, we decided to use 20-meter shuttle run instead the Ruffier test this time, and there was no paper questionnaire administered this time. Again, during the first lesson, they filled online questionnaire in the PC room under the guidance of the trained administrators. Then they moved to the school sports hall where we measured their body weight and body composition. Again, they obtained the results of the body composition analysis, and afterwards they went to the sports hall where the 20-meter shuttle run was performed. Here I present some of the outcomes from the 2018 measurements based on the published data and published articles. It can serve maybe as an inspiration for usage of such a data within the HBSC study. But of course, there are many other possibilities for analysis, and I would really appreciate later your ideas what else can be analyzed from the data we obtained. So, for example, both self-reported and measured BMI as indicators of overweight and obesity underestimated the prevalence of adolescents with overweight and obesity in our sample. Another outcome was that there were positive associations between eating disordered behavior and selected body composition variables. Furthermore, adolescents' physical activity was associated with both body-related and environment-related factors, and these associations were stronger in girls and older adolescents if co-occurring. And other analysis revealed that measuring physical activity using an indicator that combines moderate, vigorous physical activity 5 to 7 days a week and engagement in organized sports is the most valid using 3 health indicators as criteria. You can find the references to these outcomes at the end of the presentation. Here, I'm presenting some of the new ideas for analysis we have got, and we are now performing or conducting based on the data from the last data collection. We are using latent class analysis for identifying sleep profiles and their relationship to adiposity of adolescents. Then we are researching whether the health literacy level is reflected in health-related fitness indicators. Then we are investigating what are the associations between the physical activity and eating disordered behavior and eating habits and body composition. And finally, we would like to know whether sports clubs participation, cardiorespiratory fitness, and body composition associated with bullying, perpetration, and victimization among adolescents. Here are some preliminary results. They were not published yet. We are just conducting the analysis and preparing the manuscripts. We identified, that's it. That's it from my side. I would be happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your presentation. That's, yeah, excellent input. So there's room for 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
So if I can start while people are thinking about, either you can type or you can just unmute yourself or raise your hand, and then feel free to speak in this open forum. But maybe I can just start with one question in terms of one of the challenges that we've experienced in terms of the coding of the bracelet and then the coding that we asked them to input is the number of missing of the codes, mismatches. Mm-hmm. Do you have a number of how many mismatches you had, and how were you able to minimize that mismatch?
Yeah, great question. We've been trying to, I don't have an exact number, but we try to minimize that using the trained administrators, they were all the time, every time they were in the PC room, and they were checking if the children were writing the code into the questionnaire. So that was only way how we could prevent losing it. But there was not. I think it was not a big number. If there were some mismatches, but I can check it for you if you want. I was not in the process of cleaning the database regarding this, so I don't have an exact number. But we try to prevent it.
Thank you.
Yes, Charlie.
I think it's a comparison between this subjectively reported and the objective registration is very interesting and important. And I wonder, are there differences between genders in the how they match or the gap between the reported and the registered physical activity?
Could you? I don't understand. Sorry. Could you repeat it?
I mean, I'm interested in the differences between the boys and girls when it's come to the difference between the objectively registered and the reported. Are girls or boys more sort of optimistic about their level or under or over reporting their physical activity?
In physical activity?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understand well, but the physical activity was measured by the HBSC questionnaire item.
Yeah.
Moderate to vigorous physical activity and vigorous physical activity. And there we have there is a consistent finding that they are reporting less frequently to comply with the recommendations. Is that the answer?
No, that's one part of the other part. When you look at the objective registration, do you see the same differences between boys and girls as you see when it's self-reported?
What does it mean, objective registration?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
We
did physical fitness.
Sorry to interrupt.
Physical fitness, yeah. You had the physical fitness.
Not physical activity.
No.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I may have something for this. So maybe after my presentation we can come back to this.
Good.
Okay, so we can have a last question from Leila, and then we can follow with discussion after Sami's presentation. So, yeah, Leila, go.
Well, thanks, Peter. You have done a very great job and hard work. No, but my question about little bit by administration. Did you have used active consent from parents or passive consent for doing those fitness tests?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. We used in HBSC in general, we used the passive one. So only the parents were informed. They had information about what kind of tests are going to be performed, starting with the HBSC questionnaire and finishing with the 20-meter shuttle run. So they had the whole information. And if they decided that, okay, my daughter or my son is not going to attend, they had to write back, give that information to the school, and they were not included then. But many times it happened, maybe you have the same experience, that many times it happened that the children were, when they saw what is going on, they wanted. Even the parents said before previously no, they wanted, but we didn't allow them because it was not okay then.
I see. And about the anthropometric measurements, did the measurements done by school nurse or by the studying team? Yes,
by us, by trained administrators. We had We had the meetings previously. We went through the methodology, and the same team went to the all schools. So it was done by the same team on all schools, in all schools.
Well, it's correct. Thank you very much. It's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. It's a very interesting issue to discuss how to deal with protocol and how to have consent from parents, and I think it's definitely issue in many HBSC countries. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience, Peter. Okay, yeah, Sami, it's time for your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Can someone? Oh, yeah, let me see. So is it now correctly shown?
Yes, yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So hello everyone. If I haven't met every one of you, a short introduction is that I'm an associate professor in health promotion at the University of Jyväskylä and the Faculty of Sport and Health Sciences. I've been somehow involved in the HBSC study for 15 years or something. Our previous professor Lasse Kannas got me into this, and my main interest area has been the physical activity and sport participation. And since that, in 2014, we established a new physical activity monitoring study in Finland, because as you know that in HBSC there are many other also health behaviors that needs to be and wants to be measured, and therefore there is not room enough for physical activity except for 5-6 indicators that there exist, as you know. So we wanted to have a more extensive view on the physical activity behavior and also many other related factors of the Finnish children and adolescents. And this is something that you know, but just overall that we are based many of our decisions on the HBSC protocol, in that we are talking about children when we are talking about those who are in the elementary school, and then the adolescents are at the upper secondary school, and then in our national monitoring in 2020 we also first time extended our research to older age group of 16 to 20 years old. And actually for the younger age group as well, we have extended the younger age group over the years, so that we at the moment we cover the first graders as well. So we have the first, third, fifth, seventh, ninth graders, and then the second level education in our physical activity monitoring. This is also quite familiar for you, that when we are talking about physical activity behavior of the population, we can measure in a way the overall physical activity level, and or looking at the amount of total proportion of children and adolescents who are meeting the physical activity guidelines, which is a very important information and message for the policymakers to know in the country level. Then in our one of the main reasons, and this has been a success in our national monitoring, is that as we know that there are several different factors that are related or associated to certain type of physical activity, and we've been lucky to have tens of researchers in this area to bring their best tools in our surveys to measure that particular area, the particular factors, parent support, for example, or school-related factors for physical activity behaviors. And all this information then on my own interest, also the health promotion, is that, okay, then we need to promote physical activity, and that's hopefully the message that we are able to gather from this, this study. I don't go into this sport participation part at this. This is just to show you that this is not a show of a single person or a single group. We last time in our 2022 data collection, we had these 40 different physical activity research from several different institutions to be participated in the LITU, which is the name of the study in Finland. Finnish, the FSPA is the Finnish school-age physical activity study is the English name of the study. So I may slip the liitu because it's so in my head. That's the Finnish name of the study. The start of this study happened in the early 2010, the decade, when we recognized exactly this, what I already told, that in the HBSC, we had a long distance trends, but only with the limited indicators. And at the policy level in Finland, and I think that in most of the European countries, also the decision making is more and more based on evidence-informed information. And that set up us a good position so that we could argue for the ministry that, okay, we need to set up this kind of a surveillance system for physical activity behavior and get the resources, the funding for it. And one of the main arguments in that at that particular time was that physical activity had not been monitored with device measured methods at the national sample, and that we were aimed to do. And what we also recognize that in the physical activity area, then the device obviously is maybe telling us the more valid truth on the amount of physical activity. But at the same time, again, the device only don't bring all the information. The device, for example, don't know what kind of physical activity they are doing and or what is their motivation to do some kind of a physical activity or whatever. So multi-method was the starting point for overall in this, to get the overall picture and also the views and experience of the participants. So this was the leading part for the national multi-level, multi-method monitoring study in Finland, and it was executed first time in 2014. Alongside with the HBSC data collection at that time. Before that, we also did some preliminary analysis using the HBSC data, and one of the key things in Finland was that there was a very steep decline in physical activity over age in Finland, one of the steepest of the HBSC countries overall. So this was a good justification for us to argue this kind of an surveillance system in Finland as well. And in 2014, like I said, alongside with the HBSC questionnaire, we executed the first data collection. It was the questionnaire only, and it targeted the same age groups, and it actually was executed at that time so that we asked for those schools who participated to the HBSC that who of you would like to also participate to this physical activity survey. And we got about half of the schools at that time to be involved in the FSPA study. And all of these data collections and data we have analyzed, and then it has been reported in a report form, and it has been published at the State Sport Council publication series, and that was done from the first data collection as well. Then in 2016, we extended the questionnaire to also include the objective accelerometer measures. And we also extended the age group to involve also the 9-year-olds, so the third graders. And in Finland, the Swedish language is the other official language, so we also included Swedish-speaking children and adolescents in this survey part. And we used basically the same sampling protocol than HBSC, and this way, when we had third graders as well, we had about 7,500 young people answering the questionnaire, and then more than 3,000 to use also the accelerometers. In 2018, we did the objective measures. The device was a little bit updated so that it was able to also be used 24/7. So for the night time, it was changed from the hip to the wrist, and it also measured in a way the quantity and to some degree quality of the sleep, but by accelerators. So it's not measuring heart rate or anything other than the movement in that sense. But that's something that the UKK Institute that is involved and responsible for the device measures have been developing the analyzing methods further. Overall, the idea from 2018 is that we are able to measure the 24/7 monitoring. And again, the first graders were included in this, and more than 7,000 adolescents responded to the questionnaire, and about a little less than 3,000 children took part in the measurements. 2020, we extended and went to another age group, so 16 and 20-year-olds at high school, upper secondary schools, and also vocational colleges were involved. And of course, Corona happened, as you know, but we were actually quite lucky to be able to keep the questionnaire open. So we actually have a Corona lockdown data, more than 3,000 respondents from Corona lockdown time, and this was then executed at the autumn time. The others have been executed in springtime. And then we have some other two special reports also. This is that just to show that the decision makers, the policy makers are interested in. The first one is related to Schools on Move program that used our LEAD2 data or FSPA data to measure how the national program of Schools on Move have been maybe, is it shown anyhow at the population level, physical activity levels. And the other one is the Corona report on different population groups, where we also reported something from based on our data. And then in 2022, we just last week published the latest data on this, and we had more than 10,000 participants at the questionnaires, and then 1,500 used the accelerometers. And like I mentioned, that the physical activity, decline in physical activity over age is a problem in Finland. This is how the accelerometer data shows. That it actually shows, compared to the questionnaire, that we are starting from higher levels, but then the decline is very deep or steep. And you can see here on the far end on right, that only 3% of 16 to 20 years old are meeting the physical activity guideline if we are using, and when we are using the children and adolescents physical activity guideline. But in any case, we wanted to use the same to see how this changes, and it's very dramatic. Just to show then what Charlie was asking, this is the 2018 data, self-reported. And look at the 7-year-olds on the left-hand side, 7V, I forgot to change that in English. But you can see that of 7-year-old boys, 45% are meeting or reporting to meet the physical activity guidelines, 43 of girls, and in total that's 44. Take a look at that numbers. I will change the slide to measured data. Self-reported 45, 43, 44, measured 79, 62, 71. Look at the 11-year-olds, 46, 40, 43, 46, 38, 41. Quite similar. Then look at the 15-year-olds on the right-hand side, 23, 15, 19 reported, 16, 6, 10 measured. So overall, we can also already from here, we have not made the validation data looking at these by analyzed yet. We will do that. But even with looking at this, you can see that the younger age group tend to underreport their physical activity. 11 years are quite realistic, and then the older age groups are over-reporting their physical activity. My last slide. Some specialties of the accelerometer data collection. The measured physical activity, we can measure the physical activity on different intensity levels by the accelerometers. We can separate the sedentary time, we can separate lying down, sitting and standing positions, and then we can also measure the sleep length. This data can be linked, of course, to the questionnaire data. So we have the amount of physical activity measured, and then we can have whatever related factor also be linked and asked and analyzed. This needs also, of course, the school's decision. It's the school's decision first, whether they want to participate to only survey or also to the device measures. Active consent is needed. So we need to have an active consent, and the UKK Institute have developed an electronic system to take care of this active consent. So the parents can electronically give this consent, but it's needed because of the personal data that is needed. We need their address, we need something in order to collect the devices back. So because it's quite, it costs money if it's lost. So we want to get them back. So we have personal data, so that's why the active consent is needed. It needs more effort from the schools. Teacher contact needs more. They need to inform parents. They need to take care of the consent issues. There have been issues, for example, like this, when the coordinator goes into the school and there is a child whose parent have not given that, they have forgotten to give the consent. Then we have a paper version so that they can give it later, in a way, the consent. So the teacher also needs to coordinate the device distribution and returning, spare some time for these two events. It's 7 days. We need also a person to deliver and advise the use of the devices. In some cases, we have also sent a postal email. And then also the older adolescents may be able to, set the accelerometer on their hip by themselves. So they don't need a person to do that. But for the younger age groups, a person to go to school 2 times is needed, or at least 1 time the delivery. But the positive side is also that then afterwards we have been able to deliver a personal feedback to all participants who have worn the accelerometer. So they have they get a personal feedback. And at the latest data collection, we also provided school level feedback to the schools where we had enough participants from the school level. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sami. It's very interesting presentation. And now it's time to ask. So if you have any questions for Sami, let's go ahead, and or we can have a wider discussion at the end. We have still 15 minutes to discuss together. So yeah, if anyone has some questions on Sami. Because yes, Frida, Kokko.
Hi. Hi, Sami. We haven't met before, but nice to.
We have written together, but we haven't met.
Yes, we have. But very nice to hear your presentation, and I think it's very impressive the work you've been able to do. I didn't get it. Is it like is it annual, or is it every 4 years like the HBSC, or?
Yes, so we started in 2014, and that was the starting point, and we tried to convince the decision makers that we need this kind of surveillance system. So from the start, a 4-year data collection cycle would have been too long. So we, in a way, purposely went with the 2-year data collection. So the first one was in the younger age groups in 14, then the devices came in 16 and 18. Those, in a way, were all to same target group, extending, of course, the younger ones involved. Then in Finland, the policy decision making, or the funding for schools on move moved from the elementary school to the upper secondary school, and that was in a way force for us to monitor that age group as well. So we went to the 2020 to 16 to 20 years old. And then in 22, we came back here. But now we will actually do a change because now we have trend, we have enough data points. So we will collect the next data actually starting from next autumn. We will extend the data collection by covering not only the spring, but also to involve, it will start earlier in autumn for schools to be able to select whether they want to do it in autumn and or in spring. And also we this way will be able to gather the season changes better as we have the real winter with the snow and colder weather and things like that, which affects on physical activity. And we will collect next time all the age groups, so from 7 to 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And then we will change the rhythm to the 4 years ago cycle.
Very, very impressive work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frida, for your question. Sami Kokko, you.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask a similar question in the sense of the reason for doing it every 2 years, and whether we see like for measuring physical activity there is a need to measure more frequently, or because it's such a hard behavior to change when we look at other interventions and implementation sciences, that is, you know, and I think you already answered it. It was the question that you've now moved it to the 4 years. So yeah.
I may add into that I agree that when we are measuring in a way especially when we are measuring the physical activity and at the population level, that it's very difficult to have changes on that. But at the same time, in the questionnaire, we have several other types of factors that we are measuring in a way that prior the actual behavior where we might see changes, not easier, but in a shorter term. So that's also a advantage of having a multi-method things in there, that we have factors that, for example, the Schools on Move program was a national program that wanted to involve the students in planning physical activities on recess time, for example. So we had the questions in the questionnaire asking this, that have you been involved? So this kind of a much quicker or short-term changes can be seen in this kind of factors. So those are also involved in the questionnaire, different level factors, I would say.
So that's actually helping evaluating another program as well then. So you have multiple purposes for the FSPA. I think we're now open for the next 10 minutes for people to discuss. And I don't know, Zenit, do you have questions? I mean, it's difficult to
yes.
share. Yeah, sure you do.
Yeah, kind of practical questions to Sami, dealing with electronic active consents, because we, if we do objective measurement here in the Czech Republic, we always also need an active consent. But it is we organize it like that. We really need a signature from the parents, which is more or less paper based. And so if you use it, or how is it organized electronically? If it's just a Google formula and it's okay, or you have a kind of electronic signature?
That is a very good and important question. Basically, what we needed to do was that we needed to create a system. Mm-hmm. So that was purchased by the UKK Institute from a company, and there were many problematic issues in that. The first problematic issue of that was that the initial idea was that we could maybe use the bank's system, the identity system of banks, that we purchased that somehow. But we quite quickly recognized that actually is a very big money-making machine for the banks. Because they take money for each time a person enters to the bank identification system, someone is paying for that.
Oh, really?
So it was quite costly. So it was not an option. We couldn't do it. It would have been tens of thousands of euros for us to purchase that system. So that was not a possibility. So in that way, then the UK Institute asked this company to produce a separate system for this. And nowadays it is more problematic with the GDPR and everything. You need to have the double security or identification system or whatever that's needed. But still, that was done so that we now have it. And our university, for example, I have pushed them for several years now that we need this kind of an electronic consent system for the university level. So our university needs this, and now they are doing it. But it's not easy. It needs money and it needs funding. But I think that this is the similar need is for other areas of research as well. So I would say that everyone would benefit from electronic consent system. So that way it's a university level issue. Yes. And could be, they have the resources to solve this.
Yeah. I can imagine it's really helpful for many other ongoing research, because when we need active consent, the response rate is usually or might be very low, and this is something that might be really helpful. Great to hear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just like to add on this, Zenit, that there is some online platforms now where if you have it based on your server at your university server, and it also depends on the digital culture. So in Finland, it's one of the most advanced digital cultures in Europe. We know this on the barometers out there. So, we have these banking systems, we have the mobile systems, double authentication systems that it's within the society. It might not be the same in all countries. So that's one other thing to consider of the culture of digitalization. The other thing is then once you overcome that and you have that as a culture, setting up on your own server is possibly one of the ways around it. And also it deals with the paper and storage of the paper and GDPR and how long the paper should be stored for consent. Because if it's electronic, then you have it for the amount of time you need to have it before it gets deleted. That's on another study I'm on, we're using electronic signatures there, and it's housed within the server of the university. We could have done it through the outsource, but then we had to have agreements with the GDPR of how they were going to keep it. So we ended up moving it to our own servers. But yeah, so there's flexible options nowadays. It does update, and Sami has another update as well. Yeah.
No, another dimension that is might be tricky is then the ethical committees. How would they see it, whether the electronic one is enough? I know that even in Finland, even in some years ago, there was one university of which ethical committee, in a way we speak in Finnish, the active consent, that it equals to written consent, and they were old timers, old school in that they thought that it means actually the handwritten signature, the written consent. And they didn't allow the electronic consent at that time. But I think it's about to change. And then, of course, what they need to take care of is that the electronic consent system is valid from ethical point of view.
I think this might be something the MDG are interested in as well, as we're writing up with the online work, because this is brought up quite a lot.
Sure.
We have the last 4 minutes before the end of the hour. Is there anybody else from the attendees that have some general comments or observations from either of the two presentations or as a summary? I think until I see a hand up, I can keep on talking. So do raise your hand and do interrupt me if you want. But I think this has been a really nice insight to both types of presentations. I think this work that they do in Slovakia, when we talk about consent, it's almost, wow, how is that possible? But then I'm thinking, but if it's done in school and it's carried out in a school environment and there's school teachers around, then is it really that big of a risk that that they need to have this informed, they've got to have active consent. Now, some countries say absolutely yes, but I can also see some other countries can say, well, it's within school, it's up to the operatus morandus is what they call it, in terms of their local area of what they do in the schools, that the principals make the decision of what goes on in the school. So the parents just need to actively withdraw the child because they know what's going to happen in the school from a situation. It's the same as going on a school trip, that the parents don't need to say anything unless they don't want the child to attend on a school trip. And it's the same thing potentially with regards to some of the tests. So I can see it from that perspective. But, you know, we've become, in some countries, very, very careful with lots of procedures, and it has to be, you know, active consent from the parents, which to one hand might be seen as an impediment to research in itself. So that's really good to see that you're able to get these results, able to do the protocol, able to take 2 lessons of students' time to get so many responses to do that. But hopefully it's we can see meaningful results coming out already, and more questions being asked about this. So I suppose other people be interested to ask some of these type of questions. They can reach out to you, can they, Peter?
Definitely.
Lovely, that's really good. And also, Sami, thank you very much also for such a really good explanation of what's happened in Finland, and how this partnership of HBSC and how it's making people understand that the HBSC questions aren't deep enough to understand the phenomenon of physical activity, because, you know, it all started off with seeing such a big decline from 11 to 13, 15-year-olds, and needing to explore many of the factors in that, of which has been, you know, you've tried to address in this questionnaire done on a regular basis. I think we need to think about it more as a network of trying to advocate for more optional package items as well, or even pushing for more mandatory question items on physical activity as well, to maybe see some of the ways that we can help inform the trends and policies that we get from HBSC. But I hand it back over to you, Zenit, and I'm going to stop recording because I have to hop off. But please do carry on, everyone else.